I can't imagine Stanford and Cal without the big game.
Going into the 75th renewal of this annual Fall Classic, the Big Game Series record was only separated by 4 games. After more upsets, thrilling plays, and great moments than anyone could have possibly dreamed of, Stanford held a slight advantage. 34 wins to Cal's 30 with 10 ties. But as the saying goes, you ain't seen nothing yet. And 1972 would prove to be only the beginning. Prior to the 1972 season, former Cal player and Stanford assistant coach Mike White was named to lead the Golden Bears. In his first big game as head coach, the energetic White would face newly appointed Jack Christensen and his renamed Stanford Cardinal team. This year, the game was only for the Axe, but that didn't mean it would be dull, not by a long shot. A week's worth of heavy rain left Memorial Stadium a sea of mud, but any fan who stayed away because of the weather missed another one of the most amazing big games of all time. Because of the playing conditions, fumbles and interceptions would be the rule of the day. After the first Cal turnover, Stanford got on the scoreboard with a 24-yard touchdown pass from Mike Barilla to Eric Cross. The Bears countered with a long drive of their own, resulting in a Wershing field goal. After another Stanford fumble, the Bears narrowed the margin to 5 points. A 2-point conversion made it even closer at 14-11. Strong defensive play and the slippery footing forced another Cardinal punt. Cal return man Scott Stringer brought the ball back 34 yards to the Stanford 17. 5 plays later, Sylvester Youngblood scored his second touchdown of the day to put the Bears out in front 18-14. But Barilla and company weren't through yet. A well-balanced drive featuring key passes to Cross and Don Alvarado put the Cardinal back on top 21-18 with only 3 minutes left to play. A Stanford interception seemed to end all hope Cal fans had for a win. But a tenacious defense gave the ball back to the Bears with 1:13 remaining in the game. After huddling on the sidelines with White, Ferragamo set his team with 3 seconds left on the clock. It was all or nothing for the Golden Bears as Ferragamo lofted a pass toward the corner of the end zone. The Cal fans went crazy. They'd done it again. Another come-from-behind upset big game victory belonged to the Golden Bears. Going into the 1974 big game, Coach Mike White's Bears had put together one of the most feared offenses in college football. All-American quarterback Steve Bartkowski was ably supported by sure-handed receiver Steve Rivera and speedster Wesley Walker. The explosive Cal offensive duo of Bartkowski to Rivera set the tone of the game as the Bears quickly moved 81 yards for a score on the first possession. With the score 10-3, few in the stadium could disagree that Cal was in control of the 77th big game. But then something happened. It started with a fake punt that put Stanford into position for another Langford field goal. Moments later, the Cardinal capitalized on a bad snap from center to take the lead away from the Bears, 13-10. Almost before the stunned Cal fans could recover, Stanford's replacement quarterback, Guy Benjamin, hit Tony Hill for a 61-yard touchdown and a 19-10 big game lead. With only 33 seconds left to play, it was Bartkowski to Rivera for the score that tied the game. The PAT was critical, and Breach didn't disappoint the frenzied Cal fans.
Stanford had no timeouts remaining, as I recall, and Benjamin threw 2 complete passes, receivers going out of bounds, and they stopped the clock with 2 seconds left, and Stanford at Cal's 33-yard line. They brought out Mike Langford to kick what had to be a 50-yard field goal, and of course the Cal kids thought the game was over and there was no way Mike was going to kick that field goal. But as history records, he did. 50-yard field goal won it for Stanford, and I can still see then the Stanford fans rushing out of their seats, running down the field, and all the Cal rooters started going back up into the stands and get out of their way.
The Chuck Muncie show would go a long way to ease the pain Cal felt after the 1974 loss. The All-American running back almost single-handedly brought the Axe back to Berkeley in 1975. All Muncie did that day in November was run for 3 touchdowns, pass for a 4th, while his Golden Bear teammates piled up a big game record 48 Cal points to Stanford's 15. With the unexpected dismissal of Stanford coach Jack Christensen just before the 1976 big game, the Cardinal players were primed for an upset win over rival California.
I'll never forget the year that Jack Christensen, the coach at Stanford, was carried on the field before the game, and you knew that I felt that it was going to be a long day and that we weren't going to win that one.
The emotionally charged Cardinal team surged out to a 9-0 advantage under the leadership of quarterback Guy Benjamin. After the Bears recovered, it became another back-and-forth big game battle. With 5 minutes left to play, Marky Crane scored another Cal touchdown to put the Bears on top 24-19. Time was running out for the Stanford Cardinal. Cal had possession of the ball deep in their own territory. The clock was in their favor, but disaster struck the Bears. Hero Marky Crane suddenly turned goat as he fumbled a Roth pitch out that was recovered by Stanford's Duncan McCall on the Bears' 2. A touchdown and two-point conversion later, Stanford would post a 27-24 big game victory.
Duncan recovered a fumble. I think Stanford then went in and won the game, and Jack Christensen was carried off the field in a tremendous show of emotion for a coach who really had his last hurrah at Stanford.
But tears wouldn't be flowing just on the Stanford side of the field. After the 76 big game, the Bears' All-American quarterback, Joe Roth, was struck down by cancer at the age of 22. His strength, dignity, and courage during the final weeks of his life should be an inspiration to all of us.
A young man that did so much for so many people and gave so much in his short 21 years on this earth, and a young man that I'll never forget for what he did for myself, my family, and everyone that was associated with him.
With the arrival of Bill Walsh on the Stanford campus in 1977, Cal's big game hopes would diminish considerably during his brief two-year tenure. Featuring the likes of offensive stars Darren Nelson, Steve Dills, and Kenny Marjoram, Walsh led the Cardinals to two convincing big game victories over the blue and gold. Darren Nelson was to be the standout in Stanford's 1978 win. Under Cal's second-year coach Roger Theater, 1979 would prove to be more satisfying against the red and white. Although in typical big game fashion, the gun would have to sound before the outcome was finally settled. The 6-4-0 Bears were led by Rich Campbell, another quarterback in a long line of prolific passers. The first two times he touched the ball, the Bears would score. Cal fans were already celebrating with the Bears out in front 14-0, but their optimism was premature. With the score even at 14 apiece midway through the fourth period, another unusual big game play was about to take place. Cal had moved the ball from Stanford's 43 down to the 17, where Rich Campbell found tight end Joe Rose open in the end zone for an apparent touchdown. But one of the officials ruled Rose was out of bounds. It was clear to Cal and Stanford fans alike that the Cal receiver was clearly within the end zone, and the Bears should have the lead. Finally, after the officials conferred, the decision was reversed, and the Golden Bears were back on top 21-14. Under the field leadership of quarterback Turk Schonert, the Cardinals still had plenty of time left to turn the game around. And it looked like that's exactly what they were going to do. 18 plays later, the ball rested on the California 1-yard line. A Stanford touchdown and two-point conversion would give the Cardinal another dramatic come-from-behind victory. Schonert went to the air. The ball was intended for the sure-handed Mike Dotterer. But Cal safety Ron Cochemilio made a tremendous dive to knock the ball away from the Cardinal receiver's outstretched hands. After 3 long years, this big game victory belonged to the Bears. The 83rd renewal of the Cross Bay rivalry featured a strong Stanford offensive team led by quarterback John Elway. A potent Bear offense led by walk-on quarterback Jay Torchio, combined with a hard-hitting Cal defense, gave the Bears a 21-7 fourth-quarter lead. But that's when Stanford went to work. With only 5 minutes remaining on the clock, Stanford had tied the score. Cal had the ball, 4th and 1 at their own 45. The Bears elected to punt, and the ball was downed on the Stanford 5. That's when the Fates decided to smile on the Golden Bears. On the first play from scrimmage, Elway fumbled again, and the ball was recovered by Cal defensive standout Dupree Marshall. Moments later, a 3-yard Torchio bootleg put the Bears back in front, but Stanford still wasn't out of it. The defense dug in. On 4th down and now 6 yards to go for the touchdown, Elway went to the air, but a blitzing Kevin Moan forced Elway to hurry his pass, and the ball fell incomplete. The Bears had done it one more time, pulling off another big game upset in the last moments of the game to keep the Axe in Berkeley.
Being a young child of an ex-Cal player, I had the opportunity to be a ball boy and you know, water boy, ball boy. Grew up, lived and died, believed they were going to the Rose Bowl every year of my life. And in 1980, I got the opportunity to come running out from the North Tunnel and know I was going to be the guy behind the gun. And it was a dream come true in a lot of ways.
After 90 years,